What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from Unsleeved Media, and I thought, why not? I was feeling a little nostalgic today. I figured, why not go through why I quit Magic the Gathering the first time. Kind of the only time by choice, I guess. I had been playing Magic the Gathering, and of course, I noticed that Brian, the professor, did a similar video, and I thought, hey, you know what? I've quit Magic before too. In fact, most people that have played Magic the Gathering or any real card game or hobby, miniatures, whatever you might like, most of us quit at one time or another for one reason or another. I think probably the overwhelming leader as causes to quit is money, meeting a girl, getting a girlfriend, getting older. These are all reasons to quit the game that probably most people have had. For me, though, my story is a little bit different. I had started playing Magic the Gathering in 1994, 1995 era. Revised was out, I think, and then you could still get like Antiquities and Legends packs for like $3 a pack. And there were two major things out that aren't cult that caused me, well, my little guy, that caused me to quit. The first thing was 5th edition and Fallen Empires, just bad sets. I didn't understand why 5th edition, I didn't really understand, 4th edition, what a core set really was at the time. All I knew that is I was buying packs of cards, and I was getting a large majority of cards that I already owned. And when you get an allowance of like $3 or $4 a week, and you spend that entire allowance on one pack of Magic cards, maybe two, and you get 13 out of 15 cards that you already own, it's pretty demoralizing. It's what led me to take a short break until I could really understand what the heck was going on. I just played with the cards that I had or that I had gotten from buddies or things like that, or rummage sales, things like that nature. But when then Fallen Empires and Ice Age came out, I got reinvigorated. Really, really liked the aesthetic of Ice Age. There were two cards that I can remember distinctively that I just wanted so badly. And one was Jester's Cap, and the other was Icy Manipulator. Now, if I remember correctly, there weren't really any cards in Ice Age that were worth a bunch of money. Certainly there wasn't in Fallen Empires. That was one of the worst valued sets at the time outside of maybe Homelands. So I had started to learn about kind of the secondary market and realizing that, okay, well, some of these cards are worth some money. And I, at the time, was also spending money on baseball cards. So I ended up selling most of my baseball, basketball, and football cards that were worth any money for store credit at, what was the store called? Sports Cards and Things? I think that's what it was called. It was in the mall. I remember the owner of that store was also my bus driver. I think I traded in, I got a bunch of store credit, and I got a bunch of Magic packs. A bunch at the time was probably like 10 to me. If you want to feel young, know that I played Magic largely at a time where buying an entire booster box was insane. Nobody was doing that. At least not anywhere I was around. You didn't have that kind of quantities out there. There were times, and I've said this many times before, where you would go into the card shop to get a pack of Magic cards. It would be limit one per customer because they didn't want people coming in and not being able to get the packs. I remember during Revised having to buy either a starter deck or a booster pack. You just had to buy what was available. Colt's eating something. I don't know. Colt's being Colt, I guess. So you would go to the card shop. There was a little bookstore that randomly sold Magic cards, and then there was the card shop. And that was kind of it. I think Shopco, for a short period of time, might have them. So you would go from store to store looking to even find a pack to buy. Nowadays, you can buy them at the oil change place, so it's just different. So when you bought a pack, it really meant something. You found the pack, and sometimes like, I really want to buy a pack. Oh, you don't have any revised, so you end up buying Fallen Empires, or begrudgingly buy a pack of Antiquities, or you buy a pack of Legends, or you buy a pack of Ice Age. At that time, you didn't really care. You just wanted the cards. At least for me, there was a more intelligent collector world out there that, I mean, I was young. I just liked to play the game. So to how I quit. So it was right around Ice Age, Fallen Empires time that I started to realize that I was spending a lot of money and time earning money to buy these cards. And in these particular sets, there were like no cards that were really any good. For revised, at the time, I think the big hitter cards were the dual lands at a whole whopping $10 to $20 each. Shivan Dragon was actually worth money back then. Fork was worth money back then, if I remember correctly. Royal Assassin, maybe. I'd have to look. I actually have a Scry magazine of old price, by the way. And I always keep this at my desk. This is a revised starter deck. At the time, they were $8. You got three rares, and so it was kind of like as good as buying 3 booster packs, but you also got 60 cards instead of 45 if you bought 3 booster packs. And I bought a lot of starter decks in my days because you got a lot of commons and uncommons that you needed to build decks. Remember, this is also before a time of net decking. You saw what the price was of a Magic card in Scry magazine or Inquest, and then you waited a month, and the price didn't really change. So Ice Age, Fallen Empires come out. I realized I'm spending quite a bit of money on these Magic cards. So I start to look at the secondary market. I start to learn about chase cards. I start to question buying booster packs when I should just be buying the singles. And it was right around Ice Age that I started to figure out that instead of buying booster boxes, I would go into, or booster packs, I would go into the local game store and just pour through his like 10-cent Lucy's bin, which was basically all commons and uncommons, but they were all like 10 cents. I would spend an entire day just digging through that box to find 15 cards to build a deck. I would buy those cards, and then I would get a foot-long meatball sub from Subway and a 20-ounce Mountain Dew, and then my cousin and I would sit at that table and like adjust our decks and trade. And you would have your binder with you. Everyone would be trading, and you'd be building decks. And then Saturday nights, usually we'd ride our bikes in on Saturday. Then Saturday nights, we would have sleepovers and play Magic all night long with our new decks. This is when Magic the Gathering was at its ultimate pureness. It's when the quality of the cards were still good. I mean, these cards are 25 years old and they're in perfect condition, sitting in the same basement with cards that end up, looking like this, bent and warped and all sorts of stuff. They just don't make high quality trading cards anymore. Outside of probably the Final Fantasy trading card game and Dragon Ball Super, I've just seen a lot of garbage quality. You didn't care that much back then. You weren't really thinking about the future. You were thinking about being lucky enough to rip that fork. I distinctly remember, as an anecdote, a lot of times feeling disappointed when I would open like a Taiga, because it wasn't a Force of Nature, and Force of Nature was kind of a garbage card, but it was like, oh man, 2 colors. What am I gonna play this in my mono black deck? What do I need a forest for? What do I need? It's just, I made a lot of bad trades back then. Oh god. So this particular day, I believe, was a day, either a tournament, which they used to hold in like an empty unit in the shopping mall, like an empty space. They would rent it out on a Saturday, and they would fill it up with tables, and then we would play. I can't remember if there was a tournament this day, but it was certainly a Saturday that I was hanging out at the local game store. I had a 900 count box, which was the equivalent of all my cards. A box maybe this long. And then I think I had a binder too. I can't remember exactly. But at one point or another during the day, we used to all just hang out in the local card shop. Just hang out, talk, have fun, play games of Magic. You didn't, back then, it was like everybody had theme decks. It was like, oh, I got my vampire deck. You got your goblin deck? Oh, you got your flyers deck, or you got your Pegasus deck, or you got your cleric deck. And you would just play. Everybody's decks were so underpowered that it was always a blast. Every game was close. Everyone just had fun. At some point, I realized that my 900 count box with all my decks in it, because that's what you do. You bring all your decks, was gone. And somebody had stolen it. And I'm pretty sure I know who that person was, and I'm pretty sure that person had a really unfortunate accident in their life, completely unrelated. So I don't really hold it against them anymore. But what I do remember is some of the older people that were there knew who this guy was, and he was the only person like unaccounted for at the table, and along with my card. So it was pretty obvious that he took them. And so these older guys, I think I was probably, 12 or 13 at the time, maybe, just busted out looking for this guy. Like, we hit a dead sprint run because they knew that he rode his bike there. We were looking for him, running up and down by the Shopko, going to the bike racks. Everyone was looking for him. That's the day that I quit Magic. It was also the day that I knew that the Magic community was something special for the most part at that time. And I would say in most small towns, it's still exactly like that. People look out for each other. The Magic community online is different. It's garbage. It's toxic. And I'm a part of that. But the Magic community at the local game store level, in my experience, is still as tight as it's ever been. So, yes, I quit that day because the idea of having basically every penny that I had invested into this game disappear instantly and having no real way to even consider starting buying more packs of cards. Imagine losing your entire collection and then only being able to rebuild it one booster pack at a time, because that's how it was when I played, and that's how it is for a lot of people out there. So getting my collection stolen, that was it. I was like, you know what? I think I was in middle school at the time. Maybe I was getting into high school. It must have been middle school. I was like, you know what? Forget it. What am I going to do? And to be honest, theft is a real problem at the local game store level. There are a lot of degenerate scumbags that steal from each other, that steal from the store. This is a known issue in other communities. Magic, it's an issue because the cards have so much value, but it's also a really big issue, such a point within like the Yu-Gi-Oh community that some of my local game stores around here won't even hold Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments because there's always a theft problem. I don't know why that is. I don't really know many people that play Yu-Gi-Oh, but I do know local game stores that say, no, dude, we don't even hold Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments because stuff is always getting jacked and it's just not worth it. So theft was an issue back in the early 90s playing Magic the Gathering, and it's still an issue today. And I didn't have anything exceedingly valuable in that set, and I think I still had my binder. So I think I still had like some of my good cards, the good cards that weren't in decks, but I lost everything that was in decks. So that was the day I quit. I would eventually return. So maybe I'll tell you, if you like this Magic story time, hit the thumbs up button, and I've got a million Magic stories I can share. If you like it, I can do the how did I get back into Magic 10 years later. That's a fun story as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, though. We'll talk to you again real soon.